In this episode of ArcGIS Server Talk, we will discuss the asynchronous service. Stay tuned. What's up, y'all? This is Hussein Nasser from iGeometry Podcast, and welcome to another ArcGIS server talk. It's been a while since I made one of those. I've been focusing on a geodatabase talk, really, but from now and then we throw in an episode or so. Software engineering, little GIS, little geodatabase, little ArcGIS server. Guys, if you have any particular topics you'd like to discuss, hit me up on Twitter or email. So my Twitter is HNASR. You'll find me there. And let's just jump into it. So in this episode of ArcGIS Server Talk, we'll discuss the asynchronous service. So we're familiar from a client point of view, right? As a client, I make a request to a service, right? And if I decided to wait, right, before I execute, as a client, again, it's always from the client perspective. If I decided to wait before I execute the rest of my code as a client, then I'm synchronous. If I sent that request, right, and then I moved on with my day and I start executing other code, and I told this, I put some sort of a callback, say, hey, by the way, whenever I'm going to send you a request, whenever you're done, no rush, whenever you're done, just call this function, right? So that's asynchronous from the client perspective. So synchronous versus asynchronous, so simple stuff. But what does it mean to have an asynchronous service, or we call it a GP service in ArcGIS service, ArcGIS server. So what is that, right? So if you ever publish a GP service, you'll have this option like run asynchronously. So the difference here is the asynchronous job or asynchronous service runs some sort of a queue. It has a ArcGIS server maintains a queue of jobs. So anytime if you published an asynchronous GP service, right, and a client makes a request to this service, whether synchronously or asynchronously, that's a different topic, right? Immediately, ArcGIS server always says, hey, I got you. All right, you're requesting to create a buffer for, of, I don't know, 8,000 miles, right? And then sum all the features within this, right? It's just going to do an insane job, right? But ArcGIS server doesn't actually execute that request. It will immediately create a job, puts it on a queue, right? And then return that job ID to the user. It says, hey, I got you done. So it immediately returns the result, right? So the service, the request is not done, right? It's just like we return to the user the job ID, and then the client here, the user, is responsible for pulling, right, the job ID to get more and more information about the job. Hey, what's the status of my job? Hey, what's the status of my job? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? So it will just keep pinging the server to check if the job is done or not. So while that job queue, right, is getting maintained, like you get one job and then someone else execute another job, and those just get put in the queue. And then you have on your service some sort of an allocation. You have certain number of instances. Remember, guys, we talked about this maximum number, minimum instances, and all that. If there is enough room, ArcGIS server says, okay, there's a job, and there is some free instances. Let me just start executing that stuff. And that's it. That's an asynchronous service. It's very brief, very quick. I just want to explain that. If you have any more questions, hit me up on Twitter, and I'll be happy to answer. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, just write it in the comment section. All right, guys, that's all for me today, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. You guys stay awesome and have a nice weekend.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.